Hello, 9 to 5ers. I'm Elizabeth Ajadi, host of 9 to 5 and everything in between. Today, we're going to be talking about balancing diverse passions and career demands while staying energized and avoiding burnout. Our guest would share on how to juggle multiple passions while managing career responsibilities.
First thing I do is I understand seasons and I prioritize accordingly.
Along with practical tips and personal stories on effective time management.
So when you get off work, what do you do? Do you just lie in bed and scroll social media for like 2 hours?
Her unique perspective as founder and CEO of CAIN Africa will be valuable to our listeners.
When you're passionate about something, you need to be careful so it doesn't take over your entire life.
May Asagba is a visionary leader and acclaimed social entrepreneur with over 11 years of experience advancing educational equity across underserved African communities. She has led initiatives that provide free education, digital skills training, and career mentorship to underprivileged students. Under her leadership, CAIN established a state of the art learning center in Lagos, Nigeria, and implemented 13 high impact projects across 7 marginalized regions, impacting over 14,000 lives. Her work has earned global recognition from the BBC, UNESCO, the Clinton Global Initiative, One Young World, and Virgin Unite. In 2025, King received the Lagos State Governor's Award for Social Impact. Widely known for bringing fun and creativity into social impact work, May harnesses cutting edge technology and strategic partnerships to still sustainable change. She is deeply committed to unlocking opportunities and delivering quality education to Africa's most underserved youth. I look forward to this conversation with her, and I'm sure you and I would learn a lot from our guest today. Stay tuned for more. Mr. Sagba, welcome to the 9 to 5 and everything in between studio. So good to have you. So good to be able to have this conversation officially and, for the whole world to see the May and Elizabeth chemistry. A lot of people that know us, that know the relationship between you and I in season one, were asking, why is May not on season one? And I said, don't worry, we have her ready in the stack. She's on the Rolodex because we knew that, in order to bring this conversation to life between you and I with CAIN Educational Foundation, we needed to be able to position it properly so that this partnership could shine. You and I just got back from a vacation. Not everybody knows that, but we want to talk about it a little bit and tie that back to the main topic of conversation today, one, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some workplace scenarios because what's a 9 to 5 and everything in between episode without a what would Elizabeth do, or in this case, what would May do, and then we're going to dive into today's topic before we wrap it up. So first of all, welcome officially to the studio.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on the podcast. And I just want to say I'm proud of you. I mean, I remember when you started and now you've made a whole production for your podcast and you've done amazing work so far. So kudos to you and your team at 9 to 5.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. So before we dive in, I just want to chat a little bit. You and I just took a break. Probably the longest that we've taken in a while. Um, and in the intro episode, I talked about how important that break was for me to reset and just rethink priorities. What do I want to do with 9 to 5 and everything in between? What's the direction that I want to take the 9 to 5 blueprint? And I only can, assume that, you got the same level of clarity that I got and even more. And then coming off of the vacation, you got an award In Lagos, Nigeria, which is not just any small award. This is a prestigious award by the Lagos State Governor's office. It's called the Lagos State Governor's Award for Social Impact. And literally, you were standing with kings. And so, honestly, coming off of vacation high to that type of, recognition has to feel different. So, tell us a little bit about this break and just everything that's been happening in this last few months.
To be honest, Q1 was a roller coaster for me, like filled with up, downs, up, downs. And I feel like I didn't really get to rest during Q1. Like, for example, in February, I worked Monday to Sunday every week in February. January, I didn't really take a Christmas or a New Year break. I think I only took breaks on the actual celebration days. That's like Christmas Day, New Year's Day, of which I was
Wow.
spending time with family. So I didn't really get to relax even when we were on vacation.
Mhm.
This vacation was an actual vacation. And one of the things I did was I gave my team ample time to prepare for my vacation. I mean,
Right.
just know that I'm not working on this vacation. So if you need me to approve anything, to look through anything, review anything, make sure you send it to me before I go on vacation. So they were
Right.
only allowed to contact me for like in their situations where I needed to intervene or in cases of emergency. So it was an actual vacation. It was fun, relaxing, rejuvenating. So yeah, it was amazing. And I got to spend quality time with my dear friend Elizabeth, our dear host today, and my family. So I couldn't have asked for a better vacation really. And I think just coming back from that and winning one a prestigious award from the Lagos State Governor's Office was amazing, to be honest. I think when you're doing this kind of work, really, sometimes it's just helpful to see that people actually appreciate what you're doing, and you're getting recognized because recognition, even though it's not the main purpose for this kind of work, it helps to open doors for a lot of
Yes.
opportunities, and those opportunities are needed because we're always working in resource constrained settings. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah, my team and I were really excited about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, it feels validating because, like you said, you run a nonprofit and it is a passion project. If you are not deeply passionate about impacting society, impacting the underserved communities that you primarily work with, like, you would feel frustrated. And that's not to even say you don't feel frustrated now. So I can only imagine how rewarding that award was to you and the team. And that's a good segue because I want to talk about CAIN Africa or CAIN Educational Foundation today. And, it is a passion project. And from our conversations, I know you, I know the brand. It started because of your passion about there has to be more to offer to these underserved communities. And so I want you to walk us through that journey of starting CAIN and what led to it, what inspired it for you to take up this role.
Thank you very much for that question. It's a question I love answering because it takes me back down memory lane, and just reminds me of how I started. So I would say the idea for CAIN was born during my penultimate year in high school. So I was in like SS2 at the time, and I was helping run my family's business. So here I was a high school student, but I had the responsibility to hire and test candidates for a minimum wage job at the business. So I remember telling my mom, like, it doesn't make sense. I'm still in high school, and one of the requirements for that job was that they had to have a high school diploma. So I'm like, I don't think I'm qualified for this job. And she's like, trust me, when you start testing and interviewing them, you see you're more than qualified. So I started testing and interviewing candidates for the job. And mind you, it's minimum wage, right? And a lot of them came in, submitted their high school diplomas, but then when I was trying to reconcile their high school diplomas with their inability to write, speak, or think coherently, I was amazed, really. And I think it
Mm.
just really highlights the fact that there's a lot of injustice being meted to people who live in underserved communities,
Right.
because there are a lot of opportunities that they don't have access to. And one of them is quality education. So, just for
Right.
context, the test was simple: write down 10 qualities of a good salesperson. And many of them could not even write down two. Even the two that some could pen down, I couldn't even read it or put to make sense of it. It was that bad. And
Mm.
so I remember there was this particular candidate who really needed the job. I think her family was going through a crisis, and it was needed that she really needed to get a job at that time, minimum wage or not. And so she'll come every day to the store and she'll be crying and begging me, please, I really need this job. I heard you're the daughter of the owner. I'm sure you can do something about it. And I'm an empath. So I was like, it was a very emotional time for me. And I'm like, what can I do? So I went to talk to my mom about it. And she's like, hiring someone who is not qualified for the job is not a way to solve the problem. That really did something to me. And
Mm.
at the time, I told myself, I can't help this one person, but I promise when I become a millionaire, I would do something to help underprivileged
Yeah.
children get quality education. Now, remember, I said when I become a millionaire. I'm not yet.
Right. And what, you're what, 15, 16 at this time, by the way.
Yes. So, and at the time, we always think before you do something like that, you have to have your life settled. You have to have so
Correct.
much money. Yeah, that was the young me thinking like that. And so I moved to the US for college. And as God will have it, I was still thinking, oh, when I become a millionaire. And then I got a full tuition scholarship to go to an Ivy League school. That's one of the best schools in the world. Yeah, Cornell, to be exact. Cornelians in the house.
Yes.
And for me, I think I became so much aware of my privilege because of that opportunity. Privilege can be blinding. Sometimes you're
Correct.
in that bubble where everyone has quality education, everyone has access to resources. So you don't really know what people are going through. You might watch it in movies on the news, but when you experience it firsthand, it makes a, a huge difference than when you're
Yes.
experiencing it vicariously. And so at that time, I could not afford the school fees to go to Cornell. My parents could not afford that at the time, but I was able to get it because I got a scholarship. And then I was able to get the scholarship because I was privileged enough for my parents to have given me quality education, to have access to that in the
Correct.
first place. This is me thinking about all of this in my mind, and I'm thinking, wow, you really need to do something now. Like, God has really helped you. Privilege is a gift. You need to be able
Mm.
to find a way to give back also to people who do not are not as privileged as you. And so that's when I started CAIN. I was 21 at the time, a college student, pre-med. So you can imagine how stressful it was for me already as a college student. And so I registered the
Right.
organization, put together a team, and that's how CAIN was born.
Wow, wow. So at 15, 16, you became inspired by, the stories around you, the people around you, because I deeply remember the day that I became aware of my privilege, in that I lived in the north. I grew up in the north in this bubble of like, we were like upper middle class. And we
Mhm.
always came down to southwest to visit my grandma for the holidays and stuff. And I remember this particular day, I'm standing in front of her house, probably one of five houses that were like a duplex in that neighborhood in Ibadan. And I'm looking down just in the morning, and this woman is bathing her child with a detergent, Miss Bimbo, that at the time is like 5 naira or something. And it struck me like Miss Bimbo. Like even I washing my clothes, it was harsh on the skin. And for that to be what they had access to, it just, I wasn't aware of my privilege until that moment. And so for you to experience that and address it, I definitely, I give you all the kudos to be able to do something about it. Not when you became a millionaire, but now at such a young age. I just want to applaud you right now.
Thank you so much.
So, we've learned about, Cain, brief history of Cain. When you look back, Cain then, Cain now. in a nutshell, what's most different about how you're running CAIN now, how you're working with the communities around you?
Hmm. So the thing is, I often advise people, when you're starting off, it's a learning curve. So you're not going to know exactly what you're going to do. It's an adaptive process. Things are going to change. So when Kane then came now, I see massive growth. I see better
Yes.
structure. I see better vision also. So we have better vision, better strategy, better team, massive growth, better impact. And this was not built in a day. So when we started off, we were thinking, oh, we're just going to, because remember, my experience was these kids are not able to pass basic tests because they have poor quality education at their schools. I just thought it was an
Mm,
infrastructure problem. So the first intervention Kane started was we're going to go into public schools, do a needs analysis, ask them what they need, and provide those resources. But we were not getting the right outcomes by providing those resources, right? So it
right.
was a learning process for us. So what is the issue? Why are we not getting the results we set out to do? What's wrong with our intervention? And then we moved into having a community centered approach that's dipped into a system based thinking method. And what that means is that
Mm,
addressing interwoven challenges at the same time concurrently. So children are going to school, they're hungry. Even if you provide all the resources in the school, a child cannot assimilate while they're hungry. So we have
correct.
monthly drives, right? There's a foundational problem. So even if you give them the right textbooks now, those textbooks they are giving them is at their level, but foundational knowledge is poor because they did not learn the basics. So we have to start
Right.
supplemental instruction after school so they can start to learn the basics and start to build the necessary knowledge they need to advance with their schoolmates and on a
Mm,
global level. And then we also do career enrichment programs and digital skills training because we're not training them to be local champions. Like I said, the world is becoming more globalized and it's becoming smaller. So people need to be equipped to be able to face global competition. And so we provide digital skills training so they're digitally literate because many of the schools they go to, there's no computer in sight. You don't have access to
correct.
internet, right? And so we also do career enrichment programs. Like you said, we all come from different family backgrounds. So at home, you might be, depending on how educated your family is, you're exposed to, diverse career options. But many of the
Correct.
students are not because they are from underprivileged homes. So we have a lot of
Yes.
like career enrichment counseling where we expose them to diverse professionals from across the world. We've had
Hmm.
engineers from Microsoft, we've had lawyers,
Yes.
doctors, pharmacists, product managers, makeup artists, event planners, telling them that you have
Nice.
a wide array of
Option.
options. You just need to figure out
Yes.
one suits your strengths and the ways in which you can get into that career and actually succeed at it. So we provide all of these services for free. Yes, I know people are amazed, but that's also because removing the financial barrier that prevents many of them from getting quality education. Like you just need to be
Correct.
committed. You have to pay for all of the services, and so we do that. And over time, we've been able to see better outcomes. I was a leader right from I can't even remember. I was a leader class
Yep.
captain, as head
Yep.
girl, president of so association. But now,
Jagulabi.
yeah. And so, so many of those skill sets follow you into this kind of role, but there are some things that you cannot be totally prepared for. Like
Correct.
how do you motivate people when resources are limited? These are
Ooh,
people who have huge family responsibilities, they need higher
correct.
pay, everything is not passion. At the end of the day, adulthood will teach you that. So like keep
Facts.
people motivated and how do you ensure that people at least earn a decent pay even though they're doing commendable work for the community. So there's a lot that you
Yes.
learn as a non-profit leader. Somebody said it's like building a bridge but you're standing on the bridge. So
Mm,
you have to be careful, right? You're still building, but
Where
you're
you
already
step on. Mm.
when you're stepping on it. So yeah, it's difficult, but it's a learning process, and I'm just grateful for how far we've come.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that insight. I definitely appreciate the growth, even from the time that I've been very involved and aware since we became very close friends and seeing all the work that goes behind the scenes. You've definitely inspired me genuinely in my approach to how I'm thinking about what I'm doing. And on the flip side, this is also a good time to, move into your other passion as a consultant. Because while we're talking about your nonprofit, we're also talking about balancing diverse passions. Like you've recently started to consult with people, and just from all you've learned over the last 11 years, you're now imparting that knowledge on brands like myself, or even just people that are looking to reposition themselves. Um, what's that been like working with people and being able to impact people's lives, not just at the grassroots level, but at this top level?
It's been amazing. I can't even, I don't think I can really adequately put it into words. So the first thing is I would like to tell people that, sometimes when you're looking back in hindsight, you begin to see how things fall into place. So I've always been that person who, for them, impact is like my highest priority. If I'm making a lot of money and I'm not making a lot of impact, I don't feel fulfilled. And one of my love languages is actually acts of service. So I like to help people. So acts of service, youth empowerment, making impacts, helping people achieve their dreams, that's like kind of like what my life revolves around. So when I started consulting, it was just like for leaning into my strengths because I'm helping entrepreneurs, managers, develop professionally, start a business, manage their brands. And it's just been really rewarding and fulfilling. Like just saying how, just a 1 hour session or a 2 hour session makes so much impact in people's lives.
Yeah.
For me, I can't even describe the feeling. It
Mm.
gives me
Wow. Okay. So you're here having consultation sessions with people, companies, organizations, and while running your own nonprofit on the side and leading your own team of people, and also pursuing your entrepreneurship goals as well. How do you avoid burnout? Because yes, you're doing things that you love, you're passionate about it, you're feeling the impact, you're happy, but your body is not necessarily happy with you. How, how do you avoid burning out your body?
you see the thing about meaningful work that you're passionate about, if you're not careful, it will take over your life. And I'm saying it from experience because there are times I wake up in the morning and I go straight to work. I've not even brushed my teeth or taken a shower. It's because I'm just so excited to do the work, right? So I tell people that,
Yeah. Yep.
especially when you're passionate about something, you need to be careful so it doesn't take over your entire life. So how do I prevent
Yes.
burnout? First thing I do is I understand seasons and I prioritize
Mm,
accordingly. Well, what are my priorities in this season? There are certain seasons that demand more work from you. There are certain seasons where you need to lean into your personal life and hobbies for balance.
mm,
So, planning the season and prioritizing is very important. And why? Because also, if you're really good at what you do, you're going to get a lot of offers and opportunities. So, if you
mm,
understand what you're prioritizing at that point in time, you can say no to the things that don't align with that and free up space in your schedule.
mm.
So it's not going to be every speaking engagement you're going to say yes to. It's not going to be every consultation session you're going to say yes to. You're going
Yeah.
to say no to mentees, people who want you to mentor them. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
understand and prioritize accordingly. Second thing I do is I do not play with my hobbies. So I love to watch movies. TV episodes and dance. So I usually take a walk at night and you see me dancing on the streets like someone who has lost it. So I make out, even this morning, I danced before I started working. I dance a lot. So I make out time for that. I also make out time to watch a movie or a TV episode every weekend. And even during the weekdays when I'm eating, I just, to
Hmm.
just, unwind and take my brain off
Yeah.
work for a bit. So I do that as well. And I have a to-do list. I'm very structured. So
Yeah.
I plan my I plan my weeks before the week even ends. So, between Saturday and Sunday, the next week is already planned. I have a to-do list of what I'm doing each day of the week. Definitely it's not set in stone because things can
Yeah.
happen. You have to take things off, but that structure helps to keep me grounded. And the way
Yes.
my to-do list works is that I realize that your life needs to be balanced for you to function effectively. So you don't just see things that relate to work, you see things that relate to personal relationships, hobbies. So maybe exercise 2 hours today, call up Elizabeth, just on the phone for an hour. Maybe go to a restaurant and eat or something. Yeah, so I always have something, have my weeks planned out and making sure that the to-do list is balanced to reflect the
Yeah.
kind of life I want for myself. And I set boundaries,
Whew.
really. So in my phone, there are certain times where my phone
D
is on.
N
I'm a D&D
D
warrior. Sorry.
N D.
If you have
And
a problem,
what
call
do not
911 or call
stop.
God. When I'm off D&D, I can attend to you, but when I'm on D&D, I'm sorry. So yeah, I have boundaries and I really stick to that. So certain blocks in time, my phone is on do not disturb, my laptop as well. So I can focus on what needs to be focused on, or I can just rest without being disturbed. So yeah, those are some of the things that I do. And I delegate and
Whew.
outsource to
Heavy
the
on that.
best of my abilities.
Heavy on delegate.
Yes. For example, I like doing deep cleaning every quarter. I don't do it myself. I hire someone to do that for me. Even laundry now, I've started to outsource that. So anything I
Look.
can outsource and I can afford to, yeah, I do it and I delegate at work too. So I understand that I'm not a one-man army. Yes, there are people
Hmm. Hmm.
in my army that can do what needs to be done. And I trust people. So if you hire well, you'll
Yes.
be able to trust them to handle responsibilities in your
Yes.
absence.
Look, you hit the nail on the head on so many things. In fact, a lot of the questions that I had prepared, you've answered them all in this one. And I wanted to add, on delegation, deep cleaning. I tell people a lot that we work so hard to afford certain things. There is almost no reason for you to do it all by yourself. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
think about your life, and think about what can I afford to pay for? What can I afford to outsource? To give myself more time to actually live. One case in point, season one of 9 to 5 and everything in between, I edited all by myself. And it was such a nightmare because I wasn't sleeping for months. And I have a 9 to 5 job that I go to every day. So I come back and I'm awake. I'm not even a video editor. So I'm like on YouTube, learning how to do all things. One of the feedback I got from my consultation with May is like, you probably need to outsource some of this work that you're doing to get an expert to do it for you. And you need to give yourself time to actually live instead of feeling like you're you're living to work.
Mm-hmm.
People say you're in alive to work instead of working to
Yeah.
live. I can live, not the other way around. I don't get it twisted. And when I'm off work, like May, we know how to unplug. When we're unplugging, we're
Wow.
unplugging.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For real. Even if we have to check in with work, it's already planned for. So we don't let work take over our lives when we don't need to. And I mentioned that we would have a scenario earlier, and honestly, you sort of answered the scenario because the scenario from the listener's dilemma is I love painting, blogging, mentoring, but my 9 to 5 leaves me drained.
Wow.
How do I keep my passions alive?
Hmm. So I think one of the things that I often tell people is when you're thinking about work to life balance, I think one of the misconceptions is that they are opposing forces. Work is on one side, life is on one side. If you
Mhm.
don't if you don't have meaningful work, you cannot have work life balance. If you don't feel fulfilled
Ooh.
at work, you cannot have work life balance, right? No matter how much you're making up for it in your personal life, your life is still not going to feel, great. So I think when people are thinking about work, they need to think about that. Your work is important. You spend a significant amount of time at your work, whether you like it or
Mhm.
not.
Yep.
So you need to figure that out. What is it that is leaving you drained at work? Do you need to change positions? Do you need to change departments? Or do you need to change jobs? You need to figure that part first because sometimes I talk to certain people during consultation and I'm like, I don't really think it's a balance issue where you don't have time outside of work because you leave work so tired, so frustrated. You get home at like 6 o'clock, which is the same
Mhm.
time most people get home. But you know what you do after that is you're just thinking about the entire day, going through the motions. You're frustrated. You're cooking, making dinner. You're frustrated. You're doing this. You're frustrated. You're frustrated at your spouse because you're carrying frustration from work. So really, the job was the problem. Now
Transferring
you can't
aggression.
your personal life and all the things that you could be doing with your personal life. And now you're saying it's just, yes, but if you really look at the timing, there's a lot you can do after work. But that work has really destroyed your life, that is now destroying
Yeah.
every aspect of your life. And that's why you cannot achieve that balance. So you need to see them as complementary forces, not opposing forces. So work
Correct.
has to be great, personal life has to be great for you to have
Yes.
that balance.
That
Yeah. So
balance.
I think this person needs to really think about that. Like, what is it exactly? And it could also just be poor time management. So when you get off work, what do you do? Do you just lie in bed and scroll social media for like 2 hours? You can use that
Mhm.
time to nap and now you're energized to pursue other hobbies. Yeah, there are a lot of things to look at. It's usually a case by case basis. If you've tried all of these things and it's not working, maybe book a consultation session.
Exactly. I think for a lot of us, because obviously our work is funding our life, we get stuck in this dilemma of can I or can I not? And then also, work life balance is an artificial want. Like, I don't think it exists in the true sense of it because it's just like relationships. There's time when you give 80/20, there's times when you give 60/50 to different parts of your life. So, the percentage that you're able to give to different parts of your work and life would change based on the season that you're in with work and life and vice versa. I'm more of a night person, but I work a 9 to 5 where I feel useless during the day. Like I'm just so drained. My brain is not there. But by the time people start leaving at 4 is when I'm so energized. And sometimes I'm in the office till 6:30 when I'm supposed to get off at 5. And so like what do? I just stay there and finish it because I
Mhm.
let myself be sort of just useless during the day. Like I know my brain wasn't working and that's why I actually appreciate having a flexible work schedule where sometimes I can be home, where if I'm not feeling productive during the day, I can just unplug and do it later at night. So before we wrap up, because man, we can go on and on and on. I just wanted to touch a little bit about one last thing, inspiring your team. You obviously work with a team of, people who are passionate about nonprofit. And like you said, you try to hire right so that you know that the people that are there, they're there for the right reasons. While you want to make sure that you're compensating them well, how do you inspire them to avoid burnout? And that's first part. And how do you inspire them not to get sucked into this emotional conundrum with the community members that they're working with? Because like you said in the beginning, like you heard this woman's story and you were ready to hire her because you're an empath, you felt her pain. And so how do you inspire your teams to look beyond that and to actually focus on the goal at hand. It's like, yes, we want to help our community members, but we want to be impactful about it, and we want to be very strategic about how we're helping, so that we're helping the community as a whole instead of just this one small fish.
That's a really good question. So on inspiring your team to avoid burnout. So I think there's something I do. It's very simple but very effective. So when we have our monthly meetings as a team, I always start with this question: on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing? Right. Because when you say ask people how are you doing, then the usual response is I'm okay, I'm fine, we thank God. But when you give them a measuring scale, they'll have to think deeply about it and answer. And so people will say 4, 2, 8, 9, 10. And then you can now start to ask open-ended questions like what is going on with you? And why do you feel that way? And it also helps you as a leader because you know what everyone is going through at some point in time. You know, the people who are having relationship issues or, financial issues, family issues, whatever it is. And you can kind of, provide better support to them and make decisions that make them feel supported and valued and seen during that time. So I often ask that, and sometimes you are able to figure out people who need to take a break. So there are times I actually have to force members to take a break because they are as passionate as I am. So I'm like, oh no, you
I
need to take,
see.
or take the next 2 days off. Because also I think
Mm-hmm.
people who do a lot of meaningful work, you think about the guilt of why should I be taking a break? There are people who really need help. We need to get
Need
money
my
for this.
help.
Like, but you cannot pour from an empty cup, right? You want
Correct.
to pour
Yeah.
from a place of abundance, and that way you're able to make better impact. So reminding them of that you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're fine, you're going to do better work. So looking at it in that light, and then another thing that I
Mm-hmm.
often do is just living by example. They see when I go on break, actual vacations, I stay away from work, right? And they also follow me
Yeah.
on social media. So they see I have a balanced life. I make out time for my hobbies. And so, living by example helps people to relax because some people are coming from work in toxic work environments where if they feel like you have too much of a social life, their bosses automatically think they are not working. Or I'm
They're not
not that kind of.
working.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's that it's okay for you to, let your head down, have fun, take a break. We also do
Yeah.
team bonding events as well every year where we just go and have fun together as a team. Then another
Nice.
thing is also recognizing people for the good work they're doing. I'm one of those people that can kill you with appreciation. Thank you so much. So even when I get monthly reports, I always say, "Oh, thank you for your hard work this month. I really appreciate."
Nice.
I might complain about what I want to complain about later in the email, but I
But
start with appreciating them. You know,
yeah.
and just see how valuable their work is for the bigger
Mm-hmm.
picture, advance with the mission as well. So celebrating wins, no matter how little they are, appreciating people, living by example, letting them know
Mm-hmm.
that you take a break. What matters is that you're doing your work as at work you, and we're not trying to
Yes.
get burned out in the process of doing that. And I always have one-on-one meetings too with staff. So I know not everyone can do that, depending on how large your team is.
Yeah.
Even when
Group
you
is
start
yeah.
I'm spending days doing that, so I can't imagine. Yeah, but I think even if you're managing a team of 12 and below, I think that's something that you should imbibe. Just having one-on-one meetings because people are also not comfortable talking about certain things.
In group
Um,
settings.
yeah, in group settings. So just having one-on-one conversations and how you have that conversation matters. So for
Correct.
me, whatever you complain about, if I have a way to help, if I can help, it doesn't matter whether it's professional or not. I will help. I'll shoot you a message
Mm-hmm.
saying, I can introduce you to this person or I can do this for you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But oh God, so I can't help everybody. I might just be able to lend a listening ear. But for the
Mm-hmm.
cases actually do something, I make sure to follow up so they know that okay,
Yeah.
whoever can help should will help. So yeah, it helps people become more comfortable opening up to you about their issues.
That's actually a great one. I like that a lot and bookmarking it for myself. Yeah. What about the second part of like helping them not get too sucked in?
So you know what's funny about this is that um it's like it's a rite of passage that everybody in this work goes through. Even I went through it. When you start, it's like
Mm,
you're emotionally charged. You're thinking about how you want to address the inequities, how you're going to solve the problems, and all of that. And it's just all from a place of serious emotions. But I
mhm,
think that evolves over time to not just being emotionally charged, but into something that's more strategic and sustainable. And how
mhm.
does that come about? People are beginning to understand that, and you as a leader also help them understand that you're not God. You cannot
Mhm.
solve this
Every
problem.
problem.
And your job is to be a bridge or a facilitator to help people get access to opportunities, not to carry the burdens or internalize them. So you want to listen
Mm.
empathy, right? That comes with the job. You have to do that, listen with empathy, but
Yeah.
not internalize the burdens or carry the burdens. Your job is listen with empathy and figure out how to help them access the opportunities that they need. And as much as
Yeah.
you do your best, you're not going to be successful at every point in time. You're not going to be able to help everybody. So you need to be able to understand that you are human, you are limited, and we are also working in resource constrained settings. So you're not going to be able to provide all the resources that everyone needs. I try to help them, understand that over time. But everyone who comes in, including me, I'm not excluded. We all go through that process where at first it's just you're carrying everything, and then people
Yeah.
tell you can't approach this job like this. You're going to burn out. You're going to
Yeah.
even leave
Yeah.
because yeah, it's just too much. So yeah,
Yeah.
just helping people understand that. But I think it's something that's they hone with time, and having a leader just guide them as to this is how you have to think about this problem, or this is how you
Yeah.
approach beneficiaries, and this is how you listen, and this is how you deal with
Mhm.
change after listening.
I like that a lot. And I think that's a good place to, pause the conversation because we can go on and on and on about that. Definitely the work that you do is so important, so impactful. And, I often tell you how proud of you I am, how proud of the work that you're doing I am. And I'm saying it now publicly in front of the whole world and everybody who's going to listen that I am proud of you. And, just kudos for the work, kudos for the impact that you're doing, and just for continuing to find ways to impact at a greater level, closing the gaps with inequities in education. And so I really appreciate it because education really is the bedrock of society. If everybody is able to get quality education, we're going to comprehend better and be an intelligent generation that are furthering the society and doing things better. One last question for you is what's one thing that you are most proud of right now in this moment?
In this moment,
When you think about your journey, when you think about your journey and look back and you look back to what you've done so far, like what's that one thing that you say, I'm proud of me?
yeah, it's my entrepreneurship journey at CAIN. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember when this idea was born. Like, I really did this. Yeah, so yeah, it's really my entrepreneurship journey at CAIN and the impact that we've made. I mean, we've been in existence since 2013. We've done over 13 transformative projects across various communities, impacted over 14,000 lives, and we're just getting started, you know. So we
Amen.
expand to various communities across Africa and to help various, underserved communities learn how to do effective community centered projects to address educational inequities. And so I'm so excited for the future, but I'm also very
Yeah,
proud of how much we've achieved, over the years.
I love that. And to that point, I want to say if you want to be a part of all the things CAIN is doing, go to cainafrica.org. That's cainafrica.org to check out current projects. There's a lot of details on current projects, past projects, ongoing projects, future projects, and there's links to donate. If your organization does a matching donation, you can sign up on Benevity. I do that so that my giving is doubled by my organization. If you want to donate in Naira, you can do that. If you want to donate in dollars, you can donate via PayPal. There's so many means for you to donate. And if you want to donate in kind, there's always opportunities to volunteer. That is if you are based in Lagos, Nigeria. If you are a professional who would like to donate your information resources, there's career enrichment programs, like she said earlier. You can donate your time towards sharing your expertise about your work and how these kids can get to that level.
You can also follow us on social media, CAIN Africa.
Yes.
On Instagram, we're also on TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And I appreciate you for being my friend and for being a community leader. To our live audience, I want to remind you that you are the architect of your journey. You've heard about May's journey and you've seen how far she has come, and you are at the driver's seat and you can drive yourself however far that you can go. The sky is the starting point as far as I'm concerned. And I want to remind you all to follow us at the 9 to 5 Blueprint on all social media platforms to stay plugged in on everything that we're doing, and also follow 9 to 5 and everything in between on all podcast platforms, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, and you can watch the visuals on our YouTube channel, the 9 to 5 Blueprint. And everything is out there for you. Follow us, like, share, comment, engage, and let us know what you think. You can also email me directly if you have any feedback, comments, Elizabeth at the 9 to 5 blueprint.com. And I look forward to reading your comments and feedback. Thank you once again. I'm your host, Elizabeth Ajadi, and you're listening to 9 to 5 and everything in between. Have a good day.